All right, how's everybody doing today? Back again with another video for you guys and gals. And today, what I have for everyone is my versus/comparison video between the Essential Phone PH-1 and the Moto G6. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this video. And let me go over some of the similarities and the differences between both these phones and let y'all know in what areas what phone does what, okay? Now, keep in mind, though, before I get started, that this whole video, as with all of my videos, is in my opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and not everybody's opinions are the same. So that being said, let's get started. Jumping right in, the first thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals is the overall build quality and design of both of these phones. Now, this is where you're going to see a few similarities, but also, I know y'all can notice already, a few key differences. So starting off with the build quality. All right. So in terms of build quality, both devices have a glass and metal design, but where they differ is with the Essential Phone, we have a glass, metal, and ceramic design, okay? But in terms of overall build quality, I have to say both devices do a great job. All of their buttons are very tactile and clicky. They feel very nice in the hand, and they have a nice, solid weight to them. Well, decent weight. They're nice and light, but also got a little bit of heft. Yeah. So, in terms of the overall build quality, I'd have to say it's a tie on both of these. Now, jumping into the design, this again is where you're going to see some similarities and some differences. Now, looking at the Moto G6, you're going to see, again, we have that glass and metal design, but up front in particular, we have a 5.7-inch 1080p display in the 18:9 aspect ratio. And you can see we got our front-facing camera, our front-facing speaker, our light and proximity sensors, and down below we have our fingerprint sensor. Okay? Pretty standard, straightforward design. Now, where that differs with the Essential Phone is we still have a 5.7-inch display, but the Essential Phone has a cutout for the notch and camera sensors as well. And the fingerprint sensor on the Essential Phone is not located on the front, but it's located on the rear. Okay, so that's the key difference between the design aspects of both these phones and the build materials, which I already mentioned. All right, so that being said, now, you guys and gals are probably wondering who wins what. Now, in terms of the overall build quality, I'm going to have to call it a tie. Both Motorola, Lenovo, and Essential did a great job when it comes to the build quality on both of these devices, and I haven't had any issues. Now, in terms of the overall design of both devices, again, I'm going to have to call it a tie. I don't really prefer any one design preference over the other. That really comes down to personal preference. And for me, I think both of the designs on both of these devices are top notch. But at the end of the day, the design portion of this video comes down to personal preference. But at least for me, I'm going to have to call it a tie. So in terms of the build quality, we have a tie. In terms of the design, we have a tie. Now, moving on, let's talk a little bit more about the displays on these guys. Let's start off with the Essential Phone this time. Now, in terms of the display on the Essential Phone, we have a 5.7-inch. I've gotten a lot of heat in the past in my comments for saying that this is a 1080p display, and only to have a lot of people tell me it's a Quad HD display, and this is where I have to throw the numbers at you guys. A Quad HD display is 2560 by 1440p. The Essential Phone's display is 2560 by 1312, so it's not quite Quad HD. And putting that aside, I'm more focused on what I can do with the display. And when I stream things like YouTube videos, Netflix, Hulu, so on and so forth, the maximum resolution on the display taps out at 1080p. This is why I said it's a 1080p display. Okay? So that's just covering the display on the Essential phone. And putting the numbers aside, guys, I have to say the display on the Essential phone is top notch. Top notch indeed. It gets really, really bright when I take it outdoors, and I haven't had any issues with it. And really, I rarely ever feel the need to put the brightness over 50%. So putting all the technical numbers aside, it's a really, really solid display. Essential did some good stuff here. Good stuff indeed. All right. Now, jumping over to the display on the Moto G6. Henceforth, for the rest of this video, we'll call them the G6. The G6 has a 5.7-inch 1080p display. Now, this one, again, is in the 18:9 aspect ratio. This one in particular, in terms of the resolution, we have a 2160 by 1080p display. And really, I gotta tell you guys again, in terms of display, with the daily usage on this guy, this display is top notch. Again, I have to say, Motorola, now owned by Lenovo, did a really great job on this display. And in terms of daily usage, again, I rarely ever find the need to put this guy over 50%. Typically, when I'm in the house, it's at 10%. When I go outdoors, I put it up to 50%. In day-to-day usage, it's top notch. Top notch indeed. So, that being said, we pretty much covered the displays, and you guys are probably wondering, in my opinion, who wins. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is I did notice a slight brightness difference. The Essential phone tends to run just a touch brighter, where the G6 runs just a little bit warmer. So in that regard, I'd say the Essential phone has the slight edge. But in just day-to-day usage, which one did it better? I have to call it a tie. Both of these displays on from a day-to-day usage standpoint are really, really good. And aside from that slight difference in the brightness or the warmth of the displays, I really haven't had any issues with either display. So I'm gonna have to call it a tie. Keep in mind, this is another category where it comes down to personal preference. And I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, well, how is it a tie if one technically has a quad HD display and one has a 1080p display? I've said it before and I say it again. The resolutions of these displays, at least in my opinion, mean absolutely nothing to me. What really matters is that we have a nice quality display at the end of the day. So I don't care if the manufacturer gave you a 480p display, a 720p display, a 1080p display, a quad HD display, a 4K display. If it's a good display, I'm going to call it a good display. If it's a crappy display, I'm going to call it a crappy display. And both the displays on both of these devices are top notch. So we're calling it a tie, at least in my opinion. Now, moving on, let's talk about the hardware and the software on both of these devices. Let's start off with the hardware first. And this time, we're going to start off with the G6. Now, hardware-wise, the G6 is running a Snapdragon 450 octa-core processor and an Adreno 506 GPU. Internally, it has 3 gigs of RAM with 32 gigs of onboard storage, and the addition of a micro SD card slot does give you the ability to make your micro SD card adaptable storage. So it's really solid stuff. Okay. Jumping into more internals on the G6. It also has a 3000 milliamp hour battery. Really good stuff. Again, it has a 1080p display. On the rear, it has a 12 megapixel primary camera and a 5 megapixel telephoto lens and your dual LED flash. In particular, the camera is capable of doing up to 1080p 60 frames per second video and 720p slow motion at 120 frames per second. Okay, and you do also have the ability to use Pro mode with the front-facing camera as well as with the rear-facing camera. So good stuff there. All right, good stuff indeed. All right. So, and then we flip to the front. You also have a front-facing fingerprint sensor, so it's not on the rear on this one. And we also have an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, which maxes out at a recording of 1080p 30, but you can also do slow motion with the front-facing camera up to 720p at 120 frames, and you also have the ability, as I said, to do Pro mode with the front-facing camera as well. Then you have your proximity and light sensors and your front-facing flash. All right, so that pretty much does it for the hardware on the Essential phone, on the G6, my mistake. Now let's talk about the hardware on the Essential phone. Now the Essential phone has 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of onboard storage with no micro SD card expansion. Again, it has a 5.7 inch display up front here. Flipping it around to the rear and covering more internals. This guy has a 3040 milliamp hour battery. It has a rear mounted fingerprint sensor. It again has 2 dual cameras on the rear, one primary 13 megapixel sensor and one monochrome 13 megapixel sensor. The cameras have the ability to record in up to 4K at 30 frames a second and also do 720p slow motion at 120 frames per second, but you can also do monochrome video and monochrome photo as well. And then also on the rear, you see we have the pogo pins for your module support. Then we have our laser autofocus and our LED flash. Okay. More internals. The Essential phone is running the Snapdragon 835 octa-core processor and the Adreno 540 GPU. All right. And we already covered the display. It's a 5.7 inch quad HD display technically, so people keep telling me, but I want to call it a 1080p display. You take that however you want to take that. Then we also have a 8 megapixel camera on the front, which again is capable of recording 4K videos at 30 frames per second. I don't believe we could do slow mode with the front facing camera, but it is what it is. But you can do mono video and mono photo with the front facing camera as well, I believe. Now, I'm going through this video rather quickly. If y'all want a more in-depth look at anything that I talk about in these versus/comparison videos, please feel free to check out the full reviews where I go really in depth, which will be linked down below in the video description. Okay? Or also feel free to ask any questions on anything that I did not cover or you need clarification. Please feel free to leave those questions or comments down below in the comments section. But that pretty much covers the hardware on both of these guys. All right. Now, let's talk about the hardware. Then let's talk about the software. Then we're going to sum it all up and we're going to keep it moving. Now, let's start with the G6 here. Now, in terms of the software on the G6 is running Android 8.0 Oreo. Okay. And it's pretty much a stock affair of Android 8.0 Oreo with Motorola's custom actions thrown in. So you have all of your Moto gestures. You have your chop to launch the flashlight. You got your twist to launch the camera. You got your Moto display. You got your 1-button nav. You got your 3-finger screenshot. You got your flip to mute. You got your raise to stop ringing. You got your swipe to shrink the screen, so on and so forth. Pretty much just all the convenient actions, okay? Motorola didn't really go too overboard when they thought about their features. I think they've really sat down and thought, what do users really want to use on a daily basis and what will they find most convenient? And that's what Motorola threw in here. And they also threw in their own onboard password keeper with the Motorola key, similar to what Google does when you make it remember your passwords, and then you could just sign in with your fingerprint sensor. So pretty straightforward stuff. And aside from that, again, we're running pretty much a stock build of Android 8.0 Oreo. So let me just show you real quickly here. You can see it right there, 8.0 Oreo. Now, we aren't running the latest and greatest security patch. We're running the March 1st security patch. So it's a few months behind, but it is what it is. And that pretty much does it for the software. And in regards of the daily performance, when we talk about the software, I have to say I haven't had any issues with the software so far since I've owned the device, and it's been very fluid and snappy. Now, I have noticed the occasional hiccup when launching a device and the occasional app slowdown when having a bunch of apps open in the background, but that pretty much happens on any Android device over time. I am a little bit bummed that it happened a little bit earlier with this device, but it's to be expected. And although I noticed it, it doesn't really take away from the overall daily usage of the device, but it is there. But that covers the software on the Moto G6. Now, let's talk about the software on the Essential phone. Now, in terms of the software on the Essential phone, again, you're going to be running pretty much a stock build of Android on this guy. And when I say stock, I mean extremely stock. If you guys check out any of my videos, this guy came with absolutely no bloat on it. Extremely stock build of Android, and really Essential only threw in the bare bones in terms of gestures. So you got your double tap to launch the camera. Okay, you could do that pretty much from any screen. You got your fingerprint sensor to control the notification shade. Again, do that from anywhere. And you also have your ambient display, but in particular, you have your raise to wake. So as soon as you raise the device, the display will light up and give you your notifications. So other than that, that's pretty much all of the included features on the Essential phone. And now moving into the daily performance with the software, I have to say Essential has done a great job. Great job indeed. Really good stuff. And in terms of the daily performance with the software, I haven't had any issues. And another neat thing that I have to commend Essential for is that we are absolutely running the latest and greatest in terms of software on the Essential phone. So you guys can see we're running Android 8.1.0 Oreo. And if I tap in here, we are running the latest security patch, which is the June security patch. So absolutely good stuff. And in terms of daily performance, I haven't had any issues so far. It still remains very fluid and snappy throughout, with little to no app hiccups and app crashes. Really, I don't really get any of that. So it's been a really enjoyable experience. Okay? So that pretty much covers the software on the Essential phone. Okay? Now, let's sum this up. In terms of the hardware, I have to call it a tie. Again, I call it a tie because I really haven't run into any issues with the hardware on either of these devices. In terms of the software, I have to give the edge to the Essential phone. At least in my opinion, the Essential phone just runs a tad bit smoother, even though they're pretty much both running a stock version of Android. I just found that in daily usage side by side, the Essential phone tends to run a little bit smoother, where the Moto G6 does have the occasional hiccup and the occasional app slowdown, but it is what it is. So in terms of hardware, again, tie. In terms of software, the Essential phone takes the win. But really, in terms of software, it comes down to personal preference, because some of you guys, like myself, may like all the features that Motorola throws in, while some of you guys will, like myself, also enjoy the bare bones approach. So software is pretty much personal preference, and being that these are Android devices, you can pretty much change the software look and feel to your heart's content with launchers, rooting device, installing custom ROMs, so on and so forth. But at least for me, it's a tie in the hardware again, and it's a one-up win for the Essential phone in terms of software. So that pretty much does it for the hardware and the software on both of these devices. And you know, I gotta be 100% honest with you guys. I wonder if I had found a way to get the 4GB RAM model of the Moto G6, if I would have noticed that app hiccup or noticed those app slowdowns. Maybe I might pick up a 4GB variant of this Moto G and see if there's a difference. So who knows? But moving on, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys now is the Wi-Fi in both of these devices, and this is where it's a tie across the board. Now, both of these devices support 802.11 BGNN and AC dual band Wi-Fi, so that means that they have support for the 2.4 gigahertz band and the 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi. So as long as you have a Wi-Fi modem or router that supports those bands, you should be good to go. And in terms of the daily performance on Wi-Fi on both of these devices, it has been pretty much a breeze, and I haven't had any issues. But that being said, I know you guys want to see a live demonstration, and this live demonstration will also double as a speaker test as well. So let me pull up YouTube real quick and we'll get this going. All right. I think I had some music pulled up here, but let me double check. Now, I was checking out Floss's latest video here. Let me check my history real fast. Also, if y'all aren't subscribed to Flossie Carter, y'all are missing out. Really, really good tech YouTuber. Really goes into a lot of detail. Really good stuff. But let me pull up some music over here for you guys. Gonna pause that. And let me pull up some music over here for you guys as well. And again, this will double as a Wi-Fi performance test, and also double as a speaker test for you guys as well. So y'all will know exactly how these devices perform, and y'all know exactly how the speakers sound on both of these devices. So we got music pulled up over here, and we got music pulled up over here. Let me set these volumes to 50%. We're going to test it at 50%, and we're going to test it at 100%. And then we're going to keep it moving. So that's set to 50%. Let's bring this up a little more. That's where that notch comes in handy. That's set to 50% now. And I think we're going to start off testing the Moto G6. So we got our non-copyrighted music set up, and let's go. Let me just play this long enough for the ad to skip. And we're in business. Enjoy. All right. No. Alright, now let's bump it to 100% volume. Let's scrub the video a little bit. Okay. That does it for the G6. Really like that front-facing speaker on the G6. Now let's check out the Essential phone. Again, 50% volume. Here we go. Okay, let's take it to 100%. Now let's scrub through the video a little bit. Alright, so there you guys have it. Real quick speaker test, real quick Wi-Fi test. Now let's sum it up. In terms of the overall Wi-Fi, I'd have to call it a tie. In terms of the overall speaker performance, I have to give the slight edge in volume and clarity to the Essential phone. But I'd have to give the win in overall placement to the Moto G6. Okay? Nothing beats a front-facing speaker. Okay? But it is what it is. Let's keep it moving. Up next now, I just want to talk about the overall Lte Band Supported in both of these guys. And pretty much this is a tie in this category because both of these devices are globally unlocked devices. So let me just pull it up here so you guys can see. So what does that mean? Globally unlocked means exactly how it sounds. So these two devices support carry support for all major carriers in the United States and all of their MVNOs and all GSM carriers. It's very plug and play. So as long as you got a SIM, you drop it into this guy, it should pick it up and you should be good to go and not have any issues. So you can see all the bands supported on both of these guys. And really guys, this is one of my favorite things about devices. I'm finding it nowadays that I really, really love globally unlocked devices because I could take them anywhere. I could swap in and out SIMs and be good to go. So in terms of band and LTE support, Gonna have to call it a tie on both of these. Really good stuff. Now, keeping it moving, let's talk about the overall Bluetooth supported in both of these devices. Now, the Essential phone has Bluetooth 5.0 technology in it, okay? And the Moto G6 has Bluetooth 4.2 technology in it. Now, I'm going to just wrap this up for you guys right now. The Bluetooth performance on both of these devices are top notch, and I haven't had any issues connecting up speakers, other cell phones, headphones, so on and so forth. Haven't had any issues with the Bluetooth on either of these devices. Really good stuff. So we're going to have to call the Bluetooth department a tie. Now, moving on to the GPS portion of this video. Again, I'd have to call this part a tie because the GPS performance on both of these devices were top notch. And regardless of how many times I tested it on either device, it locked on within seconds, and things that had to do with the GPS, like turn-by-turn navigation, worked flawlessly. So if you're very GPS dependent, like myself, I've said it multiple times, you shouldn't have any issues with either of these devices. So regardless of whichever one you choose, shouldn't have any issues with the overall GPS performance on either of these. So the GPS on both of these are top notch. All right, now let's get into one of the most important parts of this video, and that's where we talk about call quality and speaker call quality. And this is where I have to say, in terms of overall receiver call quality, I'd have to call it a tie. Okay? Now, in terms of overall speaker call quality, I have to say the Moto G6 wins in that department. I found that on speaker calls on the Essential phone, I just wanted to get a touch louder, whereas it was nice and crisp on the Moto G6. Okay? So good stuff there. Now, this is where I want to talk about the cameras, but in the interest of speed, I'm just going to talk about my overall experience with the cameras. If you want a more in-depth look at the cameras and the camera interfaces, please be sure to check out links to the full review, which again will be linked down below in the video description. Now, again, as I've said, both of these devices have a 13 megapixel primary camera, and both of these devices have secondary telephoto and lenses like that. So they both can do portrait mode and all that good stuff. But putting that aside, going picture for picture and video for video, you know, just taking it out, snapping a quick pic, taking it out, snapping a real quick video, whether it be slow motion, regular, time lapse, what have you, I have to say that the overall performance with either device in terms of the cameras are top notch. And so based on that, I'm going to have to call it a tie in the camera department. And yes, I know one can do 4K, 30 FPS, one has a monochrome sensor, all that good stuff. And yes, I know the other one can. It tops out at 1080p 60, and you know, it only can really do the portrait mode, but it also has a spot color feature, stuff like that. I know all that, but just going picture for picture and video for video, I'm gonna have to call it a tie. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion. All right, now let's keep it moving. This is the part where we talk about gaming, and pretty much regardless of whatever game you throw at either of these devices, they're going to work without issues. Now, taking it a step further, I'd have to give the edge to the gaming performance, to the Essential phone. It just runs a little bit smoother. That's something I've noticed throughout my testing. Whereas the G6 runs good, but it does have a tendency to get a little choppy and hiccup after extended gameplay of like an hour or so, but they still perform really, really good. So if you're a casual gamer like myself, you should be good to go. If you want a little bit more heavily or more graphically intensive games, then you may want to lean more towards the Essential phone. But just for casual users, you're going to play Subway Surfers, You're gonna play Fruit Ninja, games like that. Even if you're gonna play Asphalt 8, both of these devices should handle that no problem. But where you might see some performance differences is if you start getting into more graphically intensive games like Nova 3, Modern Combat, and you start tweaking the settings to run on high. Now, when I tested both of these, I ran them on what they came set on out of the box. So I didn't tweak any settings in the graphics with the games. Whatever they were set on when I played the games, that's what I left them at. So at least in the gaming performance for high-end games, the Essential phone takes the win. But if you're just a casual gamer, then it's a tie. Now, moving on, I'm not even really going to cover the benchmarks because y'all already know what it is. We have a budget mid-range device, and we have a last year flagship device. So y'all already know how those benchmarks are going to look. But if y'all want to see the particular numbers, feel free to check out links to the full review down below where I went in depth on both of the benchmark scores for both of these devices. So if y'all want to actually see the raw performance numbers, check out the links to the full reviews down below. Okay? Next, now let's talk about one of my favorite sections, the overall battery life and the overall charge times. Now, in terms of the overall charge times, let's start with that. I'd have to call it a tie for both of these devices, right? Or I'd have to give the slight edge to the Moto G6, alright? Now, the Moto G6 supports turbocharging, and the Essential phone supports rapid charging, okay? They're both a form of quick charge, and they both perform extremely well. But in my particular testing, I found that the Essential phone takes anywhere from about 1 hour and 50 minutes to reach a full charge to about 2 hours, okay? Keep in mind that does vary depending on when and where I plug it into the charger at. But the Moto G6 wins because on average, it takes the Moto G6 about 1.5 hours to 1 hour and 50 minutes to reach a full charge. So it just charges up that much quicker, okay? So at least in terms of overall charge times, the Moto G6 wins. Now, jumping over to the overall battery life between these devices, this is, again, where the Moto G6 wins again. Now, in particular, with either of these devices, I'm easily able to get through a day on a single charge. Now, one thing I want y'all to keep in mind is that I am a heavy user. I watch a lot of YouTube. I stream a lot of movies and videos with Netflix, Hulu, so on and so forth. I watch a lot. I listen to a lot of music. I'm constantly taking photos and video and what have you. So I'm an extremely heavy user. And I was still easily able to make it through the day with both of these devices. But where I did see a nice big discrepancy is with the screen on time, okay? With the Essential phone, I was getting anywhere between 5 hours of screen on time to about 7.5 hours of screen on time. I did manage to get 8 hours like once or twice, but I couldn't really duplicate it, so I'm going to have to call it at 5 hours to 7.5 hours of screen on time. But I'm easily able to make it through the day. Whereas with the Moto G6, I'm pulling down anywhere from about 7 hours of screen on time to a little bit over 13 hours of screen on time. So really, really good battery stats from the Moto G6. That's why in those two regards, I'm going to have to give the W's to the Moto G6. Okay? Now we've reached the end of the video, and this is where I want to talk about price and give you guys my final thoughts and a recommendation or two. So, starting off with the Essential phone, I picked up the Essential phone on the Amazon payment program, and the full retail price of the Essential phone when I picked it up was $500. But since I picked it up through the Amazon payment program, I had to pay $135 up front, which was my first month's payment and the taxes. And then after that, I had to do payments of $100 a month until it was paid off. Okay? Now, if y'all don't want to go that route, y'all can easily find the Essential phone available today from about $260 to about $500, brand new. If you go used, you're going to find it a little bit cheaper than that. Now, jumping over to the Moto G6. Okay? Now, again, I got the Moto G6 on the Amazon payment program. And out the door at checkout, it ran me $47 plus tax. I think it was like $75 after taxes. Okay? And after that, I just make $47 payments a month till it's paid off. Okay? Now, if y'all don't want to go that route, this guy is available full retail at a bunch of places. Best Buy, I think you can get it for $250. If you look on Amazon, it's available from about $235 to about $400, depending on the model and the configuration that you're going with. So that's that. All right. Now, talking strictly about the price. If we're going strictly based off price, which one should I pick up? I would say go with the G6. Okay? But if you're thinking I just want a quality device with good battery life, good cameras, I again go with the G6. No, does she not? Again, I would go with the G6. Okay? But if you're like, I want a flagship device that's going to always be up to date on the latest and greatest software and never be left behind for as long as the company deems it supportable, then I would have to say go with the Essential phone, because then not only do you get a nice flagship device at a great price, but you also have support for your modules. So the functionality on this one goes through the roof. And as of right now, I think they have a 360 camera mod, and they still have their wireless charging mod in the works. But that's that. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to what you guys want and what you guys think you can afford. Again, for me, I'd have to say I probably lean more towards the Moto G6 strictly because it's based on price. But in particular for me, I probably would have went with the G6 Plus because you get that extra gig of RAM, which is something I think may have helped. And you also get double the storage to 64 gigs. Which isn't really saying much because this guy has a micro SD card and I can make my SD card internal storage. But that's just how I feel about it at the end of the day. But it really comes down to you guys and what you think you're going to want and need out of the device. Okay? That being said, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. Do keep in mind, if you did enjoy this video, please help your boy out and give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. If you guys and gals want to see more raw, uncut content like this, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below and click off the notification bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. If this video did pique your interest and you want to pick up one or both of these devices, all links to where to pick up these devices will be located down below in the video description. So, interest is piqued. Down below in the video description should be like a one-stop shop for you guys, and you should be good to go. As well as if you want to know any more information on either of these devices, remember links to the full reviews on both of these devices will be down below in the video description. Alright, and as always guys and gals, if you guys and gals know anyone out there looking for the best performing devices and products at the cheapest possible prices, please share with them my channel because I'm doing this for everyone because we all deserve the best. That being said, I hope everyone has a great day and I will catch you guys and gals in my next video. Peace. Also, this whole video was recorded using the 13 megapixel primary camera on the LG G6 at 720p resolution at 30 frames a second in 18:9 aspect ratio with no external microphones hooked up. So please let me know how the video looked, and please let me know how the audio sounds. And I do want to apologize if you heard any other ambient noises in the background. I want to apologize for that. I am getting some work done on the house. You know, it is what it is. We're not going to edit that out. These things happen. It's raw. It's uncut. Again, have a good day, and I will catch you guys and gals in my next video. Peace, everybody.